Nope. Still prepping. Hold tight.
Don't move.
Nobody fucking move. Okay. What is fantastic? Can you make it play back? Okay. Well, that's the whole screen, so I don't see that stuff on it. No, but this Zoom takes the whole screen. Get out of Facebook. Now they're going to Facebook. Can you do that? Or did you take Facebook to this computer? Just close Facebook. Did you guys hear that tune called Creepy Fairy Tale Music?
Yeah. It is creepy.
That was Swanee. Very Swanee.
Very Swanee.
Not speaker view, not gallery view. But the background is super cool, right, Kris?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't I look like I just wrote a novel and you guys are about to talk about it? I didn't.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Welcome to Read the Weeds, Jilleien.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a big fat introduction in a second, but that is my friend Kris that I've known since the 4th grade.
Hi, Kris.
Hi.
And she does a lot of Reads and Weeds with me, and I usually spring them on her with between 3 hours and like 2 weeks notice, and she just shows up.
That is a good friend.
It's good. It's good. And this is my friend Kristen.
Hi, Kristen. So Kris and Kristen.
Kris and Kristen, yeah.
Gotcha.
You can also call me Kris if you get confused.
Just gonna call everybody Kris.
Perfect.
Any of us will answer. And here's why I stayed, even though I have very little clothing here. And I have very little clothing here. And it is because this is my view out of this window. Can you see that?
Nope. Oh, yes. It's a lake.
Oh.
Yeah.
Aw, where are you?
We're in West Michigan, near Grand Rapids. Should we give out?
What lake?
Camp Lake. Camp Lake in Sparta. And yesterday, the last 2 days.
Sparta.
Oh my gosh. Kris lived in Michigan.
I did. I ran away and stayed with some people there.
Yeah, fun. That's a whole other show, but.
Wait, what? Let's just go back.
So here's how Reads and Weeds works, Jilleien. Eventually, we're going to get around to talking about.
It's fine by me. I got nothing but time.
We're going to talk about cannabis. We're going to talk about literature. Guaranteed every show for at least like 25 minutes. But it takes me some time to get there sometimes. And
of course.
Yeah, and I just.
The joy is in the journey.
The joy is in the journey. You are right. But I came here on Saturday, and I was going to stay for a few hours, and now it's Monday. And I keep just cooking all their food and serving it to them on a boat that they just got that looks like a
boat. Yes.
You're a good friend, Kristen.
Ooh. Yes.
Today we fixed furniture. We pulled up the pontoon to like a garage, like a pull-in.
Oh, fun. Like a boathouse.
Bar.
Oh, I love that.
That is awesome.
Yeah. It was.
I see why you've not left.
And I just keep.
Why would you ever leave?
I do.
Kristen.
She's trying to talk me into staying a week.
You want us to tell her to leave? We'll tell her to leave. It's time to go. It's time to go, Shelly.
I've actually been a professional chef.
Yes. I'm not much in the kitchen, so when Shelly's like, I think I'm going to bake cookies, I'm like, well, okay.
Well, okay.
You guys want me to grill up this corn? They're like, yep, just keep cooking and bring. I'm just like, here you go.
Yay.
I mean, that's a fair trade.
That's an awesome trade.
Everybody wins.
This show is really me announcing that I'm starting a private boat random service company. Like, if you're on a boat and you need somebody to like bring
You're
you,
a boattress.
I'm a boattress. I brought out this bag of goodies yesterday, and her son was like, "What you got in there, Shelly?" And I'm like, "I'm so glad you asked." We have chewing gum, mushrooms, gummies, flour.
Mushrooms. I nibbled some mushrooms yesterday. I might do that again.
It's a happy day.
I had some on Saturday. That's funny. Was it Saturday? Yeah.
I brought
Whatever.
cakes in containers, and I made the cake.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
Really good.
it is. You know what? I've been by myself, and I really like to serve. And so when someone will let me, I'm doing it.
Yay.
I'm doing it. They're like, "Oh, you're cooking up something?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be out in a minute." And I brought out mussels, steamed mussels, bread to dip in it, corn on the cob, roasted potatoes.
What?
Yes. Beers.
That is not what I'm
Basically a
eating.
shrimp boil. That's what you brought.
Yes.
You brought a shrimp boil.
Yes, it was like stew. It was like frogmore stew. Okay.
So when are you coming to Maryland?
Really?
I don't have a boat though.
In a couple of days.
No
Well,
boat.
get on it, man. You can rent something.
And I have like a prison yard view, but
Put it
you know.
together. Oh, you should post that on View from My Window. That'd be fabulous.
Yeah,
Those are my
It really
favorite
looks like it.
ones.
Mhm.
Those are my favorite posts.
we'll
Yeah.
do an episode called Live from the Prison Yard, and we'll do
That's right.
both of them.
I wish we could be. Those are the best people.
It's like
They
our
are.
bedroom window. There's like a really dilapidated building to the side and a courtyard that's abandoned. It's just,
I love
is-
it.
It's just abandoned buildings, and yeah, I don't
love
even
it.
know if they're abandoned. They're just.
What
not-
it is
But they appear abandoned, and that's
They
what
do.
matters.
Yeah.
so. I recently met Jilleien Franquelli Ripley.
Oh my God, so many syllables. I got to do something about
All
this.
right, I said it. And
You
then
did.
I also appreciate the fact that your email is long too.
I have one of those.
Because
Yeah.
I'm pretty stoned. I just got pretty stoned right outside before the show, and typing in that email
Really?
after
Okay.
I did, Kris.
No shit.
Match. But I we were trying to figure out Zoom and my passwords, and Kristen's
Mhm.
things are popping up, and there's 3 screens going, and then I had to type in your email.
Yeah, and it messes you up because you're like, wait, effect or affect?
I
What?
don't
She may be
know.
incorrect on this sentence.
No, that's terrible.
Yeah. So wonderful thing.
I literally have a graphic of that in my next to my computer because I still can't keep it straight.
I'm getting ready to bring
Yeah.
us all together, and your heads are going to explode.
Like this.
Okay. So there's a lovely woman who lives in Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
near where Kris lives. Kris has met her in Vegas.
Wow.
Christina Gradius is good friends with this one and
Oh, that's
this one.
yeah.
And she's awesome. So Christina Gradius is the person that we all have in common. She's such
Oh.
a friend that holds all
Okay.
together. You don't remember that much because we were in Vegas, and it was when I was shunning the group. I went on my last business trip with my former company, Jilleien. Everybody was like, let's bring spouses and have fun, and it's Vegas. And I'm like, we better not be having a lot of meetings because it's Vegas. And they're like, we won't. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm inviting my friend Kris just to crash the meeting.
Yeah.
I'm bringing somebody, so I'm bringing her. And so she comes up, and we have Bonnie Raitt tickets, and we have, and we're ready to party. And then they start setting up all these meetings, and I'm like, no
That's
way.
perfect.
Serious meetings. They were serious meetings.
Serious meetings. People were crying. And I'm just like, my
And-
friend just got here. Go hang out with her. And that was my last meeting.
I was gonna say, and you don't work for that company anymore?
I don't. But Christina
Don't
does
fuck with Vegas.
awesome at it. So Christina calls me a couple weeks ago and says, I keep thinking about you because I coach this woman who also runs a cannabis podcast, and she's awesome. You guys would get along, and I've been meaning to introduce you for a year. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, that's so nice. And then I'm like, it took you a fucking year to introduce me to
I
this.
mean, she's known, well, yeah, I've done a podcast for a year, but she's known me a little bit longer than
Yeah.
that, so we can even
Really,
blame
I've
her
thought about
further.
it every week. I've thought about connecting you two every week, and I'm like, why?
Texting. It's called a text.
So, and I just finished coaching with her, and I think she was like, oh, wait, since this is our last phone call, let me introduce you to Shelly.
Oh my
So
God.
I should have just quit earlier and we would have
She
met
was
earlier.
worried you were gonna.
Maybe that's what it is.
You'll have to report this back to Christina, but
I will.
sometimes Kris will call me and go, say something coachy, and I'll be like, you have everything you need already, and she'll be like, that was fucking it. Okay, later. And that's it. That's how we do our coaching.
Mhm.
It really works for me.
I mean, if that's what you need is just one sentence to trigger the thought process, then that's a true athlete, right? Just
That's-
have your starting
Oh.
point. Think about it.
When I
Hmm.
think about Kris, I think true
Athlete.
Is that why you made that? I mean, maybe a mental athlete or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
She's not even. But listen to this word Kris made up. Are you guys ready? I hope you haven't heard it already. Hand epiphany.
Okay, I have to tell you, when I heard
That's a word.
I thought black and white cuddly bears. Sorry.
Panda. Yes. Like a panda had an epiphany. That's just as good.
Panda during a pandemic going like, I don't have to be just a bear. Why does everybody expect me to be
It's a
cute?
panda epiphany.
And epiphany.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay, so why was she so excited to introduce me to Jilleien is because Jilleien not only publishes the only medical cannabis magazine.
Well, I don't anymore. I did the first one.
Did the first
Yeah.
one,
Yep.
but she runs a show called Conversations with Mary Jane.
Yep.
And their goal is to end the stigma of cannabis through storytelling, which is we're on the same page.
Yeah.
And also she's fabulous because her and her brother, when they were, I think it was in the 90s, started a nonprofit called Simple Sacrifices.
Yeah.
Right? And they deliver about 1,000 meals a week, lunches, right, every Sunday to
Yep.
Baltimore.
Yep. Yeah. That was way back in the 90s and I reintroduced it. We just had our 5-year anniversary for Simple Sacrifice when we had to stop in the 90s. But yeah, every Sunday we like make and deliver lunches to the homeless and hungry in Baltimore City.
Love it.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay. And then
Love
It's
it.
literally the best part of my week.
Thank you for doing
Yes,
that.
yes.
Awesome.
Of course.
And have you been able to keep it going?
Yeah, we did. We had to do some precautions with coronavirus because they are one of the most vulnerable populations. So what we did was we suspended all of our volunteers just so that we know where we are and what we're doing. And we've really quarantined as much as possible. And then we come in, with a face shield on, mask. What was once a line, we now have everyone spread out over a park, standing as close to 6 feet away from each other as that they can. Yeah, so we're still able to do it. And what has been, and kind of what I thought would happen is with every week, the crowd gets bigger and bigger. And this is not like, this is going to be an issue as we continue to move forward, as people become more and more food insecure, rent insecure. So we're just now doubling down on our efforts and really moving as far ahead as we can, as fast as we can to serve that population. Because a lot of small organizations like mine are, for many reasons, unable to continue their delivery. So whether it's because they're compromised themselves, or they've been sick, or they don't have the money, I mean, all of those things. And so I'm grateful that we have a great network of people that we're able to call upon to kind of continue and even increase our fundraising and increasing the amount of food we're able to give out during a week.
So if people happen to be listening and haven't heard of you yet and they live in that area,
Yeah.
do they go to simplesacrifice.org to make a donation?
.com, but yep, simplesacrifice.com.
Simplesacrifice.com.
Yep.
There's a donation to feed food insecure population in the Baltimore area.
Yep.
And check out Conversations with Mary Jane.
Yeah.
This friend Kristen that I told you about, mainly about the boat
Yeah.
analogy, but she's a coach, or she's a strategist, and we both work with Christina Gurdias.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. And so when I come over here, we always it's like a blend. Like I wouldn't say 50-50. It's a blend of like, let's sit in the sauna. No, let's sit on the dock. And like yesterday morning, we got up, sat on the edge of the boat, and had church. Like sang for the lake. We sang for the lake.
Did some yoga.
We thought people would come by.
Perfect.
Crazy. We harmonized. I got that. Sorry, my fan.
I don't think I've heard a house phone ring.
I know.
It's a landline.
It's a
What?
landline.
Why would you even
That's so smart for the apocalypse, though.
True that. I'm fucked.
So when we first talked, we talked about business. We talked about all kinds of things. And I said, "What would you want to read?" And she goes, "Ooh, maybe creepy fairy tales." And in all of the things that we've done on this show, we have not done creepy fairy tales yet. I can't believe it, because we've done scripts and nonfiction and fiction and young adult. And is your computer really far away, Kris? Why are your arms held so far like that?
She's just getting comfortable.
Yeah. I'm in a really hard chair, so.
Oh, you're hanging out on the back. I see. Okay. So we picked a doozy here. If you're unfamiliar with the Six Swans, I'm using visual reference because what Kris told me was that there's nothing better for a podcast than visual references. Pictures of the lake and pictures.
It's really good.
Take a look at this.
Yeah.
Listening audience, check out this white piece of paper that I'm holding up.
There's a swan on it.
There's a swan on it. Yeah.
It was.
It looks like your basic worksheet from high school.
Exactly.
Basic. Took Kristen and I though. We also battled with printing this out late last night. Anyway, 1812, published by Grimm's. And there's a lot to unpack here, folks.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up.
So, where even to begin? Jilleien, why don't you tell me why this was one of the ones that
I sent you?
Yes.
Well, I told you as we were like chatting growing up, I just read a ton and read the encyclopedia, and I had this encyclopedia of like folklore. I tried to find it and I couldn't like find what it was anywhere, but always like these short stories that were like a little off, a little creepy, kind of had a meaning deep down inside of it. I always appreciated those, even more so than like long form books. Like even though that book was really big, I loved like the short stories that we moved along. And so I'm a little hippy dippy. So one of my power animals is a swan. So I think that's why it all came together. I was like, I've never heard of this story before. I love swans. And it's not, I think, an edited for children. So it just kind of like a swan came together.
So
that's why I did it.
You would really like it right here because 2 houses down, there's 2 swans that just kind of live there. Like they just live right there in Swan Villa. 2 houses.
That's awesome. Yeah, you don't see them very often.
These guys in real life. I wish we could turn around and show you.
It's 2 swans looking swanish.
Doing swan things.
Yeah.
Large white creatures who every once in a while dunk their heads into the water, but otherwise they
Bottoms
look
up.
like they could kick your ass at any moment.
Yeah, they do look kind of fierce with the eyes.
Well, have you ever been attacked by had a geese, like a goose?
The apartment I used to live in when I first lived,
Yeah,
I learned
they're nuts.
the hard way, just jogging along. Oh, look at the geese and her gosling.
They'll chase you. So I think swans are similar, like slightly beautiful and slightly crazy. Maybe that's why I picked it.
Nice.
What I've aimed to be.
Look good and be ready to pounce on you.
Just accept. Yeah, she's just accepted her swan-like nature.
It's true.
Yes. Congratulations, Jilleien.
Thank you.
So I'm just gonna read the first little section because I feel like there's a lot to unpack here. A king was once hunting in a great wood, and he hunted the game so eagerly that none of his courtiers could follow him. When evening came on, he stood still and looked round him, and he saw he had quite lost himself. He sought a way out, but could find none. Then he saw an old woman with a shaking head coming towards him, but she was a witch. "Good woman," he said to her, "can you not show me the way out of the wood?" "Oh, certainly, Sir King," she replied. I can quite well do that, but on one condition, which if you do not fulfill, you will never get out of the wood and will die of hunger. Okay, a couple things so far. It seems like it is a tale as old as time to have a leader who's so bananas that he leaves his whole troop and gets lost in the fucking woods right away. I want to go hunting. And they're all like, dude, you're getting way too far out. And then there he is, lost in the woods like a dumbass.
Well, I'm a lesbian, so I can't really comment on men, but I do feel like this is
No,
a
you
thing that they
can
do, right?
comment.
Like, well, I
No,
meant
you
like
can.
driving in cars with them, getting lost.
Yeah,
like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's
just,
so many things.
He did ask for help, which is
He did ask for help, and here's what he
But
did.
only because he was going to starve to death.
Sure.
I mean,
Right, and he said a woman came to him shaking her head. She was a witch. Well, that's
of course she was a witch.
He's just making an assumption right there.
mm-hmm.
Why didn't he just say, "Hey, do you know your way around here?" No.
Maybe she had on her witch garb.
Oh yeah, maybe she had her. Yeah, she was branded.
Mm-hmm.
she had the wart on the nose. It was a dead giveaway.
She did.
It was.
And so she pretty quickly, it escalates pretty quickly. Sure, I can help you. But on one condition, which if you do not fulfill, you will never get out of this wood and will die of hunger. I feel like right here, he underreacts a little bit. Condition. Like he doesn't even go, wait a minute. That seems like quite a lot to ask.
Yeah.
Right. I have a daughter, said the old woman, who is so beautiful that she is not her equal in the world and is well fitted to be your wife. If you will make her lady queen, I will show you the way out of the wood.
Gotta have a marriage.
Sure.
It's a
Gotta have a marriage.
Gotta have a ridiculous marriage right away. And this woman's just like, right away, I think the man that is fitted to marry my daughter is this dumbass king who gets lost in the woods.
In the woods. And
I mean,
calls me a
something's
witch.
definitely up with the daughter. I'm just saying.
Something's
Like,
up with the daughter. She's just like, you know what? Now's
the
my
mom
chance.
is
There's this guy wandering around. He's the one.
offload.
He's the one. Because this shit at home is some bullshit and I've had enough.
Because
Got to go.
you know, she was very beautiful. Like the king said that, but she didn't please him. Is that the word?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So what's up? He knew she was crazy. That's
he could.
the prettiest ones always are.
He had a poor
As old
booty.
as time.
Thank God I don't have a problem with that.
As a lesbian, I can comment on this. I will tell you. The prettier they are, the
You're like,
crazier they
you
are.
look good.
I'm loving getting a sense of your moral compass in terms of stereotyping men and women. It's really working for me.
The prettier they are, the crazier they
She's so right, though. She's nailed it for the dudes and the chicks.
Right. Kristen is like my threshold for pretty friends. Like if you get slightly better looking than Kristen, I do trust you.
She don't fuck with you.
Yeah, I had a really like classically pretty friend in high school. It didn't end well. We ended up brawling.
I mean,
are.
Wait a minute.
I
Julie
have.
Powell.
Oh, that's right. You guys did. But I think we love you, Julie.
Love you.
I
Heart
think,
of gold. Sweetest girl.
but we did bad things.
No, we were on two completely different trajectories, dude. And there's a visual for those of you just listening. Yeah, two different trajectories, dude. But yeah,
But
she
This
had like a
is-
solid family and stuff. I was at home with narcissist crazy.
oh yeah,
Since you brought up high school and your classically pretty friend, I was going to show me
Oh,
in high
please.
school and a portrait my brother calls, and we were surprised she was a lesbian.
Let me see. Oh man,
True?
nice.
Is that you? And your brother's like, I can't believe she became a lesbian.
Well, we found it one day. Like I came out in my 30s, and so we found it like when I was 35, and he was like, "Bugby shirt,
Shit, I think
anger in
people
the
were on the
eyes."
fence about me for a long time. Actually,
Rugby shirt and anger in the eyes. Ouch.
Just repressed. Yeah,
Yeah,
very
but-
religious. So of course,
Like a personality so much bigger and the skin just holding it in.
Mm.
something like that.
yeah.
It's like,
Which is a callback to Benji Adair last week telling me when I was in like 8th grade that I was more personality than looks.
oh, that's
It pretty much.
Good though.
It is. I mean, when it's true, it's true. I just accepted my nature, whatever it is.
good.
Yeah.
You know what happens? Really hot girls have to worry about becoming less hot.
I
Well,
think
that's true.
you know what's cool. I think about like this generation, or not us, but like the younger ones, or maybe like the 13 to like 20. I think they're the ones that finally got everything is beautiful. There's no like
Yeah.
Oh,
like I can't imagine someone saying that today. Like a kid
Yeah.
saying that to someone like,
Yeah.
you're definitely more personality than looks. Like, what?
My pretty friend, very pretty, classically pretty friend, she was a model actually. She somehow got him to pose the question. So the pretty girl was a factor in the whole conversation because she was clearly the pretty girl and I was the personality. I kept the whole thing together,
Have
probably.
you spoken to someone about this incident?
Dude,
Oh, like
you have
that
no
is-
idea.
Deep in there.
It's on the span of moments, it's a minor role.
Oh,
Minor. Yeah, it's kind of a just ridiculous anecdote that I like to tell about Benji Adair.
yeah, and he's a great guy.
He's a great guy.
That
He
guy-
is. I love that guy.
Yeah, we all
Salads and
say
beer.
weird
Remember
things.
that, Shelly?
What?
Beer and salads.
Beer. Salads and beer.
That's how he lost weight.
how he lost weight. He was this great looking guy.
huh. I mean, weed and
works.
fruit.
So we've already decided like normal teenagers already a pain in the ass, but a witch daughter teenager, she's ready to hand her off to the first man she finds wanted.
She's like, you think I'm a witch? Huh.
Between this bitch.
This girl. So what happens next, listener? You're like, wait, what happened? It's not over. It's not over.
No.
The king, in his anguish of mind, consented. He was like, I'll do anything. Lay this crazy chick on me. The old woman led him to her little house where her daughter was sitting by the fire. Of course she was. She received the king as if she were expecting him, and he saw that she was certainly very beautiful, but she did not please him, and he could not look at her without a secret feeling of horror.
No, that's how I feel about my ex-husband.
What did you say?
That's how I feel about my ex-husband. He fills me with horror. Horror. I know what that person who wrote that in the 1800s, I know what they're talking about.
You're like, oh no, there's
Horror.
something deeply wrong with you. So, but anyway, he's like, but she's hot. Classic mistake.
I'm lost. She's hot. I'm hungry.
I've got to get out of the woods.
So then they celebrated the wedding, right? Let's just
Yeah.
celebrate the wedding.
Yeah.
Well, we know what that means.
Yes.
Come on. Pretty
With
girl.
harps.
Hashtag bang. Hashtag wedding bang bang. He's like, get on my horse, which I guess just survived with him for a while. The horse is just like,
I could have taken you out if you just asked me, but whatever.
That would have been sad to find out the horse knew the way the whole time.
Shit. That was fucking awesome, dude.
with his woodland friends. Okay. Where the wedding was celebrated. So they shorten that, right? No questions asked when he trots back into town after being gone a while. Gone long enough to be panicked enough to marry a stranger who's also fills him with horror. He trots back into town with the stranger who fills people with horror. And everybody's like, sure, we'll have a wedding party real quick, even though you're also married with a wife, 7 children, 6 boys and a girl. And they just didn't happen to be home when you brought home the new girl on the horse.
They're Mormons.
I feel like they were Mormons.
They're Mormons.
Oh my God.
So 6 sons and a daughter.
Yeah, who he loved more than anything in the world. And when he came back with a stranger on the back of a horse, they had no further questions.
It pleased God that he take another wife.
Please, God. I guess so.
I don't think she even knew about them. He hid them right away.
Yeah.
Let's hold wedding celebration while I run and hide my children.
Well, I feel like he had read a fairy tale before and knew this
Well, it's
witch
gonna
was
turn
going to
out.
be crazy. And he's like, one of these kids is going to get a spell and I'm going to lose them. So we're going to hide them. Like, I just think he probably...
You're a king in a castle who gets lost in the woods. You know some fairy tale shits in your future.
Mhm.
You're
Classic.
an idiot. I mean, Shakespeare had already happened. Shakespeare was already like 300 years old.
It's old. Yeah.
In the woods. So he knows some weird getting ready to happen. Some spells, some witches. So what does he do? Well, he does the obvious thing. Because he was afraid that their stepmother might not treat them well and might do them harm, he put them in a lonely castle that stood in the middle of the wood. It lay so hidden, and the way to it was so hard to find that he himself could not have found it out had a wise woman given him a reel of thread which possessed a marvelous property. When he threw it before him, and it wound and showed him the way. So let's talk a little bit more about the king. The king loves his kids so much.
Why not kill her?
I know, dude.
Now,
I know she's going to take you out.
Dragon out there somewhere.
I just emphasize that the king is not a good decision maker.
No.
No, he's not.
Navigator. If he got lost in the woods in the beginning and he can't find his own kids where he laid them.
His wife was like, "What'd you do with those kids?" He's like, "I took them somewhere."
Yeah, they don't really fill in those spots. Like,
a lot.
There is a lot of gaps, but I kind of like that. Yeah.
mhm.
Fast forward.
Kris, what do you call that when your mind, as a writer, when your mind fills in?
Oh, filling in the gaps.
Okay, good. We're in a writing group, and there's this concept. We write just enough to where the reader fills in.
The rule is that the writer should trust their reader. That's really what it's about. Don't tell us everything.
But I feel like the Grimm's Brothers editing team is really asking a lot of us.
That is interesting, actually, though, because it was probably, I'm just taking a stab here, but it was probably a thing to keep stories down to like a minimum number of words, or to keep people's attention. That doesn't surprise me. Things were printed in the paper, or that kind of thing. Yeah, it was like
being told drunk around a fire, and somebody at the fire is going like, "Where? He was lost in the woods. Just put him in a castle." And it's like, okay, what happened next?
And honestly, if they started to describe the wedding, everybody would tune out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They're like,
nobody cares. They're like, yada, yada, yada.
Oh my God, I was literally just going to say we don't need to have the yada yadas explained.
Right. We get it. Mead, purging, waffles, corsets.
We got it.
Moving on. So, and then, you know what? If this were available for purchase, the spool of thread that led you somewhere, I'd get it.
Yeah, I actually, that was probably my favorite thing, because it's like, it's really follow your intuition, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any, I guess. So he's got to have the thread. Yeah.
and I'm just, again, there's a lot of missing information, but this wise woman was fucking with him.
Yeah.
Not only that, but why is she a wise woman and not a witch? She's doing the tricky shit with the thread.
No nose wart. No nose
Maybe,
wart.
but that's like the distinguishing characteristic of the good and evil character.
Yeah.
You know, so a witch
Somebody's
is bad,
wise.
wise is
They're both
good.
women.
Right,
But-
They'll both fuck you up. Just
I see there's only two categories. You're either wise or
Wise?
that's it.
You're only wise or a witch.
You could also be a mute wife.
God, you know, I'm going to take a leap and say that I'm betting most men would probably categorize women in those two categories.
Wise-
Actually, I'm just going to, yeah.
What about the hot girl who fills you with horror? That's a
Witch.
Witch.
Oh,
But-
okay, right. She's a witch daughter, which means like her
there's
birth-
like magic behind her. You pay a price for it.
Also, I feel like he's like, hey, wise woman, and it's like the same woman that plays all the characters. She's like,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. I mean, I took my hat off, and you obviously same woman that fuck with him in the woods. He knows that she knows he's gonna have trouble with this girl, and she's gonna have to come back in later in life and intervene.
Maybe it is her.
Maybe it is her, and she's standing there, and he's like, hey, I married this crazy woman. I was scared she was going to hurt my kids. So for some reason, I put them in a castle in the woods, and I need to go visit them, but I forgot where they were. And she's like, here's this string.
Yeah.
Throw it out and follow it. He's like, how much? She says, everything you got.
Yeah. It's your kids, dude. It's your kids.
I really thought it was going to be, it revealed that it was the witch that was just messing with him. But
That
it
seems very fairy tale like.
Mm-hmm.
such a minor mention. A wise woman gave him the thread. No question
Yeah.
asked. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. So the queen, who is the witch's daughter, grew offended at his absence. Why are you always going to see your first kids?
She
Well,
didn't,
she didn't even know yet.
know. She
Oh,
didn't
that's
know.
right. Because
Yeah.
somehow
He was just dipping out all the time. She was like, I'm about to find him cheating.
Oh, really? You've got a business meeting?
Yeah, that was it.
She's
What
like,
are you
honey, didn't you just get
doing?
lost in the woods? What's going on?
You seem to come always home happy.
By the way, have you seen our children?
She grew curious and wanted to know what he had to do quite alone in the wood. Quite alone. I need to go to the woods. We know he didn't have a good excuse. He was getting caught in lies because he's obviously not a good decision maker. He's picking
Yeah.
bad guys for King. I've got to go to the store. She's like, kings don't have to go to stores. So he's suspicious. He's suspicious behavior. So she grew curious and wanted to know what he had to do quite alone in the wood. She gave his servants a great deal of money, and they betrayed the secret to her, and also told her of the real which alone could point out the way. So obviously the king has no loyalty. His servants are like, we can't tell you where the king is. She's like, how about some money? And they're like, he's over.
Yes.
Don't you think it makes you think, though, that King's not a good king?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
from the
And
get-
the women are completely ruling everything and running everything.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, maybe he's not a good human. Like, he loves
Yeah.
his kids, but if you were a great leader, I mean, I would imagine people wouldn't turn on your ass. Maybe. I don't know. I've not been in this position before, but I would just think, like, maybe that shows he wasn't as good.
Sometimes in the world, there's just a dumb person that gains power through reasons that nobody.
Hi, welcome to 2020.
America.
I think that's a situation.
We're in it.
Like there was a great king in power, and he had like a dumbass kind of prince son who didn't learn anything, and then suddenly the king died, and this prince became king, and everybody was like, "Oh no!"
My worst
But I
nightmare.
also think,
Dumb.
tale as old as time that money talks, and so I guess
Sure.
they could be bought easily.
Sure. This is just a job for them. This is just a job.
No loyalty.
They
Poor
didn't
king.
sit around as little boys going like, "Let's be servants for the king." Maybe they did. I don't want to tell somebody their life. Okay.
Okay.
And now on to
So
that.
judgy of somebody if they really Be a servant to a king.
When
knock
I
yourself
grow
out.
up, I want to be a servant to a
maybe
king.
maybe they love it. Maybe they love the outfits. Maybe they love.
Yeah, it's like Downton Abbey of 1800.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes, that would have been cool. I would have loved to be in that.
Yeah, you want to be in the castle
With
working.
Miss Patmore. Like I'd honestly rather
Yes.
hang out with Miss Patmore in the kitchen than Lady Mary. I mean,
Oh,
I'd
totally.
rather hang out with Lady
Totally. Oh my God.
Miss Patmore for sure. So anyway, the servants are fine. They took some money. They gave us the secrets. It's fine. Plus,
Off
they're
with
like,
their heads.
"It's the queen. Shouldn't she know where the king is?"
True.
She found the reel, and then she made some little white shirts. And as she had learnt from her witch mother, sewed an enchantment into each of them. So just, she's mad at her husband, but she's like, before I go in the woods and find him, I'm going to sew some shirts.
Just in case.
Just in case.
How witches work.
Exact. Bunch of shirts. Real quick. And then I'm heading out.
I want you to notice this. She sewed the 7 shirts super quick. That's a little foreshadowing about somebody else who has to sew later in the story.
But also, let's check out this alliteration, which Kristen just pointed out. She sewed 7 shirts. Super swiftly. Swan shirts. Swan spell shirts. 6. Okay.
Ooh, I like that.
I know. That was fun to do. If you guys want to take a second and try it or no, does it not matter?
I think
6 swan.
6 swan.
6 sewn swan spell shirts.
I have a list, so I will not be doing that.
Hilarious. I want to know. I pictured like Fruit of the Loom white T-shirt. That was the picture.
Totally Ruffly shirt is what I got.
Oh, you got roughly. That makes so much more sense. My brain just went straight to the Hanes, and I was like, where would she sew in a spell? It'd be so obvious.
I was thinking a button down, so look where our minds go.
Wow. Mine was definitely like a peasant blouse. See, that's
Awesome. You guys like threw in the context. My brain did not do that. I went straight to like the drugstore white, pull open the plastic, put on a white T-shirt. Literally.
In 1812, right.
My brain did. That is what I saw. And that is an example of readers filling in the gaps.
sure. And also kind of an example of time travel.
Yeah.
She sewed a shirt that doesn't even exist.
She was ahead of her time.
She can make it. She's magic.
In my brain.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it just kind of takes some of the magic out of the swan shirt, thinking you might be able to purchase it wrapped in plastic. I think she had to operate like a loom with her feet and like madly weave it. I don't know how.
We don't know.
Anyway, she wonders where her husband is, and like every good woman, she's like, first I'm going to bribe a servant to find out where you were. Then I'm going to sew a bunch of shirts. We've all seen this movie. Woman goes out to find the man, but first she sews a bunch of shirts. Okay, so the children are clueless. They're hanging out in the woods. Somebody's coming to visit. So they're like, it must be our dear father who abandoned us, but then comes back every once in a while because he married a woman who fills him with horror. But they don't know any of that. They're just lonely in the woods. And they sprang to meet him very joyfully. Then the woman threw over each one a little shirt, which as soon as it touched their bodies, changed them into swans.
Just the boys.
Just the boys.
She has some freaking good aim, right? I just throw it on you.
Well, you know why? Because the boys all ran to meet their father.
Yep.
The daughter's like,
Eh.
he's so onto him. She's like, have you guys forgotten that our dad, A, ran away from his team that got lost in the woods, B, brought a stranger back, C,
Shacked us up.
Shunned us to the woods.
he's the greatest. She's like, oh my God, why do I hang out with so many dudes? She has no,
She
Yeah.
loved him dearly. 'Cause she
Future
loved
queen.
life to him.
Yeah, she has some loyalty. So that weird thing happens. The queen was like, I turned your sons into swans, and leaves. And also, apparently this is the first time she's ever seen the children. So again, she has no further questions. How long have you been living out here?
I like her style. You know
When you know, you know. Yeah. When you
I
know,
don't need
you
to ask
know.
questions.
Yeah.
Come here,
Yeah.
kids. Swans. Anyway, because I mean,
Oh God. Imagine if you really could do that though. That would be
sure,
handy.
some people I'd turn into swans, but
I would have probably turned my kids into swans a couple of times, as long as I could have turned them back.
sure. Well, they get to be people 15 minutes a day.
We know how to turn them back.
And we do know how
Just
to
wait.
Right,
It's
right.
coming.
Right, and it's pretty easy as far as like right now, if I could turn an animal into a person by being silent for 6 years, would I stick with it?
I don't think so.
I don't think I can do
I
it.
know, Shelly.
That's
30
a
is what-
long time.
Yeah, I'd
Couldn't
like
do
to
it.
see that actually. I would. Yeah.
I mean, that is impressive that that's what broke the spell, right? Her not talking anything for 6 years. And even the brothers were like, nah, man, because they could be unswan-like for a quarter of an hour every evening.
Sure.
So, you know, when they talked and they're just like, yeah, that's way too damn hard. But
yeah.
she was like, watch this.
Fun.
So to just fast forward, she finds them in a cabin with their human form, and they quickly tell her the only way to break the spell is if you don't talk or laugh for 6 years. And she's like, I'm on it. I'm on it. I'll do it. Yes.
Right. So
And
and
she has to make shirts.
yeah, and so also she
Yeah.
says, my dear father, again, I feel like she's underreacting. Where are your brothers? Says the king. Dear father, they've gone away. What? That's what she starts with. They've gone away. And then looking out of her little window, she'd seen her brothers flying over the wood in the shape of swans. So she doesn't lead with, a woman came and turned the boys into birds. She's like, they left me. Like they really, I feel like they didn't have a choice. They just innocently put on shirts, turned into swans, flew away, but she knew they were her brothers. Of course. So you're like, I think that swan's my brother. We both.
I like that.
Yeah. Can you imagine my brothers being swans? Kris knows my brothers.
I almost can.
Can you? They're tall.
Yeah, one of them would be a black swan.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think it's Joey.
I think Joey might be the black swan. Yeah.
Black one, he is. That kind of also looks like Will Smith.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean black like that. I meant like black and like it's
Golf.
just who he is.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Well, he's a golfing swan. Okay.
Well, now let's get clear about this. I feel like that I could see your mom looking at her 3 children and being like, Joey. Joey's
he's a swan.
he's the black swan of the family. But now that I say that, if I threw you into the mix,
Right. Maybe I'm the black swan.
you might be the black swan. Yeah. He's the black swan that stayed home. You're the black swan that flew the coop.
Okay.
If that applies to swans.
You guys remember the Black Swan movie with Natalie Portman losing
Oh,
her
yeah.
Yeah.
shit? So are you guys up for me reenacting a couple scenes from that?
I mean, I'm going to need to know which scenes because there are some, maybe not so much.
The ones where she's losing her shit the most.
Oh, what you call me waking up every morning?
Yeah.
If you plucked a black feather out of your skin right now, though, that would be tight.
That would be lit.
Another visual for our
That'd be
listening
lit.
That
audience.
would be sweet.
Picture a regular brown-haired, glasses-wearing, middle-aged white girl who didn't dress up for this show, plucking black feathers out of her face while wearing a hot pink t-shirt. That's what we're doing. Okay. So the boys have been turned into swans. The king mourned. 3 words. King mourned.
Tight sentences. Tight.
Economy of words.
Tight.
Conservation. The king mourned, but he did not think that the queen had done the wicked deed because he's not that smart.
She's pretty.
She's pretty. She's done.
Shit.
Girls do.
They're so dumb. You hid them because of her, but nah,
But
couldn't be her.
Remember earlier in the story when you were so afraid of her that you hid your children away? I don't think it was her though. His friends are going like,
You know, he's just not connecting the dots yet.
he's not a dot
Not a
collecting.
dot connector.
He's not
No. Everything's just happening to this guy. He's like, I'm lost in the woods. I've got to marry this bitch. I've got to go home. I've got to move my kids. I've got to have this thread. I don't know what's happening, but I'm just
kids
going
are
to
swans.
move through it.
My kids are swans. I don't
My
know.
kids are swans.
Yeah.
But it's not her.
His business partners are like, how's it been going, King? I guess he doesn't have business partners. You know what? And you know why? Because when you're the king, nobody checks you on your insanity. He's like, I believe my sons have been turned into swans. They're like, absolutely, sir. Like,
Where are they?
nobody's like, I feel like you should talk to somebody about the way.
Swans, tell me more.
What
When
happened to you?
Wife. And so, have you thought this might be your wife? He's like, yeah, it's not her. He needs a lot. So not getting. And his therapist is like catching in. Okay, so the king mourned, but he did not think the queen had done the wicked deed, was afraid the maiden would also be taken from him. He wanted to take her with him. So he gets the daughter, but she was afraid of the stepmother because she knows.
She knows what's up.
She knows, and begged the king to let her stay just one more night in the castle in the wood. And the poor maiden thought, my home is no longer here. I'll no go. But she fled into the forest. She ran all through the night till she could go no further. Saw a little hut, went in, found a room with 6 little beds.
Yeah.
She was afraid to lie down on them, so she went
Under.
because that's what I do when I'm scared of beds. Get under
Well,
them.
she had read Goldilocks, so she knew don't get in the bed, under the bed.
Yeah,
So
dude.
she knew.
Dwarves here, like, is this the porridge that's too hot, too cold, and then 7 jolly dwarves? I mean, like, there's so much going on.
This family, like, and when he's telling his friends, like, you know, what would you do if you ran in there with 6 little beds? Well, I'd get under one. Me too. Like, they all agree. So she did that. She laid on the hard floor and was going to spend the night there, but when the sun set, she heard a noise and 6 swans flying in. They stood on the floor and blew at one another, and blew all their feathers off, and their swan skin came off like a shirt. The maiden was like, oh, those are my brother swans. And she got out from underneath the bed. Because if you think about it, that is a smart decision. Because if a bunch of swans come in, take off their swan shirts, and there's 6 other people, you just want to stay under the bed.
Yeah.
Again, I see the Hanes shirt coming off over the
Have you
swan
been watching
heads.
TikTok? I feel like that was very seductive
No.
shirt removal.
I don't know where this is coming from. I just literally saw like the white undershirt.
What if,
Funny.
what if Kris is like every morning, what she does for exercise is dance strip.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. First thing.
I get dressed and then I strip it off.
Get dressed, real sexy, with a lot of clothes, so you have a lot to strip off.
I didn't do this. I wasn't going to do a sexy strip. It was just going to be literally like that motion.
Just take it off.
Yeah.
That's
That
good.
white Hanes shirt.
But anyway, I see it coming off. I literally see it like their wings coming out of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So her brothers were not less delighted than he. That seems like a ridiculous sentence.
So they were excited. They were as delighted as she was.
Not less delighted. So that
Not
means
less delighted.
Well, they knew
So they were
she was in trouble.
equally.
Right. You cannot stay here, they said to her. This is a den of robbers. If they were to come here and find you, they would kill you. Could you not protect me? Asked the little sister. No.
Nah, bitch.
This poor little girl.
we only get 15 minutes and we use that to really hit the town. No protecting you. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we only lay aside our swan skins for a quarter of an hour every evening. From this time, we regain our human forms, but then we're changed into swans again. Can you not be freed? So first of all, she wants to ask more questions here, like, what's it like being a swan? Can you talk as a swan? Are you guys the den of robbers? Are all thieves robbers? There's a lot of questions.
Are all thieves swans?
Yeah. Are all thieves swans?
Are all swans robbers?
Are all swans robbers? Oh, that's hard to say too.
Are all
swans robbers? Try it at home, folks. We've already done alliteration. Now here's another just exercise. Are all swans robbers? Are all robbers swans? Okay. Cannot be freed. And they're like, oh no, the conditions are too hard. So somewhere on the swan circuit, they must have met other people who'd been turned into swans because they know right away how to unswan themselves. This is maybe just their first chance. Or maybe
it's at sunset.
Well, maybe they've asked a bunch of people and they're like, nobody's gone for it yet. You know what I mean?
They just accepted their fate. Forget about it. It's
like
too
every
hard.
day they go, how do we not become swans? Somebody starts trying to tell them how to do it and then they turn back into swans. But here's how. The conditions are too hard. You must not speak or laugh for 6 years and must make in that time 6 shirts for us out of star flowers. If a single word comes out of your mouth, all your labor is in vain. And when the brothers had said this, the quarter of an hour came to an end, and they flew away out of the window as swans. But the maiden had determined to free her brothers, even if it should cost her life. She left the hut, went into a creek, went into a forest, climbed a tree, spent the night there, collected star flowers, and began to sew. So again, she didn't wait till the next night to ask them like 15 more minutes of questions, like, what if it doesn't work? How will I find you at the end of the shirt making 6 years? No further questions.
And most of this is believable up to this point, but then she stays up there for years and some time passes. What?
Sure.
I'm going to live up there in the tree sewing.
Where's her sewing materials coming from?
I figured that was like a weave because it was with a flower. So you like weaved them together.
Yeah.
Really tightly like a Hanes t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, how?
Tightly woven.
Tightly woven.
Tightly woven. But again, imagine the amount of trust that this young girl has. Sure, a bird just told me that I need to be quiet for 6 years. That's all the information I need.
Yeah, she's a good sister.
Very good sister.
It's almost like they just gave her a ridiculous task because they really didn't want to be boys again.
Hey, this swan shit's pretty fun. So
let's see, a year for each of us. She can't talk. She can't laugh.
That's like my brother's going, hey, can I hang out with you guys and your friends? And they're like, no, you have to go in your room and read the whole encyclopedia. Copy it all down in blue ink and then come back and see us when you're not annoying.
Well, that just goes to show you how determined a woman will be. She's like, okay.
6 years. Let's do this. It's
I'm
starting right now.
She's like, drop in the bucket, bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I was tired of talking to you guys. Okay. So she sat there looking only at her work. So she's sitting in a tree sewing starflower shirts.
Nice.
So not braiding.
When she had lived there some time, it happened that the king of the country was another king wandering around the woods, different king.
Yeah, that's very important to note because you can miss that. And then that story takes on a whole new meaning. You're like,
the father married his daughter? What?
Yeah, so it is another king.
It's another king.
I was
second time I read it, I caught that. I was like, oh, okay. That's better.
Hunters came to the tree where the maiden sat and said, who are you? Come down to us. They said, we will do you no harm. But she shook her head silently, and they pressed her with questions. She threw them the golden... Oh, wait a minute. Everybody get ready. Visual reference is coming, because look what happened. She's been sitting in a tree for however long. And the hunters walk up and say, hey, come down. And they start... Okay, they press her with questions. She threw them the golden chain from her neck. But they did not leave off, and she threw them her girdle. She's been sitting in a tree wearing a girdle for years. When this
it still fits since she was
not talking,
garters,
or laughing,
and then her dress. Because if you want to get rid of a bunch of guys,
undress.
undress and throw jewels at them. Everybody
Nothing's
knows that.
working. I've thrown them my chain. I've thrown my garment.
All right.
I mean, that's what I visualized.
Please, just leave.
The husband would not leave her alone. Surprise, surprise.
Shocker.
Why won't you guys go away? What are you doing in that tree? But she answered nothing. So a naked woman not talking, and these men are just,
Yes, please.
it's obviously fucking with them. Okay, because it makes no sense. Listen at this sentence, Kris. Are you ready for a fantastic sentence? He asked her in all the languages he knew, but she remained as dumb as a fish. Because she was so beautiful, however, the king's heart was touched, and he was seized with a great love for her. So again, this king comes home with a naked mute woman, and there's no.
She's really pretty.
Mermaid. A fish.
She's really pretty.
Oh my God! And he says, "Dumb as a fish." Like, hey,
You know what?
my fish friends.
That's my girl.
What's the harm? She's quiet.
She's quiet. She's naked. She's pretty. But
She's quiet. Ideal.
she dressed in rich clothes, and her beauty shone bright as day. But not a word came out of her. He set her at table by his side, and her modest ways and behavior pleased him so much that he said, "I will marry this maiden and none other in the world." And after some days he married her. But the king had a wicked mother who was displeased with the marriage and said wicked things of the young queen. So we've all known this mother, right?
You mean mother-in-law?
Yeah.
I don't have that mother-in-law. I have a great mother-in-law. I
Oh,
don't want
that's
there
so
to be
lucky.
any tone in my voice to make it
Yeah.
seem that way.
Yeah.
But, I will say that my mother's passed away, and there are moments where I'm like, that is a silver lining, because she would have been crazy for my wife. So, yeah.
Oh,
Ah.
feel like I read, because I also Facebook stalked you, of course, and read about your instant surprise 2018 wedding. Not instant surprise, but
Yeah.
you get married, and then there was a travel ban. So you're like, let's do it really quick.
Yeah,
right?
we got married in 5 days.
They got married in 5 days, and it's
Mhm.
if you get a chance, go to the Jilleien Franquelli, Colleen Ripley kind of love story. I feel like it's in the Baltimore Sun, isn't it? Or
It's in Baltimore Brides. It's on their website now.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it's this great story about her friend from Florida was sad she couldn't come, and then she just drove up.
Mhm. She sang at our reception for us. She sang our wedding song.
Aww.
Colleen's best friend from college. We didn't want to make people feel bad for not being able to, because we had been engaged and we were going to be married a year later, and we just moved everything around. So she waited to tell one of her very, very best friends who lives in Costa Rica less than 24 hours before we got married. She FaceTimed her and she's like, "I'm getting married." She hung up the phone. Hannah was at our wedding.
Wow.
She it just, when you throw a wedding in 5 days, a lot of, maybe that's why I like fairy tales so much, is because that created such magic in our lives. Yeah.
We found a venue and caterers and everything.
It's
Just
Yeah, it's
condensed.
great. It was. I highly recommend it. Oh my God.
yeah.
We
I
had
was
zero
great.
debt coming out of it. It was very,
That's
5
awesome.
days of bliss stress rather than whatever the year of hell.
Yeah.
Most brides.
we had one parent that I had to convince a little bit because they thought we were rushing it for some reason, so that was it. Everybody
That you were
else was like,
pregnant?
no, yeah, they were totally. It's like, that's not how this works.
Let me sit down and
You're
So
like,
we were gonna miss on some magic.
we
or
gotta do
something.
this quick.
Yeah, we'd been together 7 years at that point.
right. But don't rush it. But also, it's worth noting that I watched this other adorable thing. So I'm not on TikTok, but Jillian's wife Colleen
Oh my
said,
God.
"I've been wondering how I landed Jillian," and she does a TikTok video dance.
Nice.
Awesome.
My wife found TikTok about 2 months ago, and now that we're, quarantine still happening, and there's a lot of dancing happening. There's I was napping yesterday, and she came and she's like, "Babe, can I just show you my intentions dance? So I'm laying in bed and just watching her do this dance like over and over and over by Justin Bieber. I'm happy when I get to like be a part of it. In fact, I have a little TikTok that I did, and within 30 seconds of it being uploaded, it was immediately deleted from TikTok because of cannabis. So yeah. So you can see that on Facebook and on my Instagram.
Oh, fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Do it. We'll do
Mhm.
it. So anyway, here's the mom going like, so you're going to marry that naked girl you found in the tree?
That
I
bitch.
don't know about that. And he's like, but she doesn't speak. I love her. She is too sweet and good to do such a thing. If she were not dumb, she could defend herself.
Oh wait, you skipped a part because the queen, she had a baby and the queen
Like 3, right?
Yeah.
And the
Took each one
mother-in-law
away.
kept
Yeah.
whacking him.
Single mom stole the babies and blamed her, but the king would not believe it.
But
But she's too
also the queen, somehow her personality, this queen's personality is more intriguing now. The girl who's sewing shirts, mute, naked in a tree, and when her baby gets taken away, she's just like, you know, I'm just gonna keep sewing and
Not gonna say a word about it.
Being mute seamstress has worked for me thus far, so I'm just gonna.
She had 3 kids. She didn't say a word.
Didn't say a word.
No.
She didn't say a word because she likes her brothers, who did not help her at all, and her own children. Her bird brothers, who she thinks might come back to life if she sews and is mute for 6 years. So she's just going with it. Again, a lot of trust. She's a good sister. So, and the king's like, no, she wouldn't steal the child. But then the 3rd child was taken. So that's 9 months, stolen child, 9 months, stolen child, 9 months. So at least like 3 or 4 years of sex, pregnancy, muteness, shirt sewing, stolen babies. And now the king is like, there's something weird about this.
Something's going on here.
Now he is saying it's weird. Oh my God. Are we getting near the end of this weirdness?
We are.
Oh my God. So much has happened already. So she just wasn't defending herself. Somebody keeps stealing my children. She's not saying that. And it's your mother. Don't you see her coming and going with our child? You dumbass. He doesn't suspect he's not picking up what they're laying down. When the day came on which the sentence was, okay, so they go, she's not defending herself. Her kids keep
She must have done it.
She must have done it. She must have done it. So they sentence her. She doesn't defend herself. It was the last day of the 6 years in which she must not speak or laugh. And now she had freed her dear brothers from the power of enchantment. The 6 shirts were done, only the left sleeve wanting to the last. When she was led to the stake.
So the sentence was she had to be burned to death. Burned at the stake.
Burned at the stake.
Man, this is like a culminating moment in a movie.
Right.
It is. And before they're taking her to the stake,
Done.
she's going,
Fire started. I'm standing here.
and she's going,
Not saying a word.
wait a minute. No, she doesn't even say, wait a minute.
She
But they're
can't
like,
speak.
I wonder why she's carrying all those shirts up there with her.
I'm going to be burned at the stake, but I got my shirts handy.
And they're like, you know what? She's mute and she's been sewing them her whole life. So
We'll let her have them.
she's super into the shirts. We'll let her keep them while we burn her alive. Okay. So the town's good with that. The king's good with that. She's still not defending herself. She laid the shirts on her arm when she was led to the stakes because still super important. She looked around her, and as she stood on the pile and the fire was about to be lighted, wouldn't it be lit? Or
Lit.
lighted. She looked around her and saw 6 swans flying through the air. So now they come back. Thanks, swans. Then she knew that her relief was at hand and her heart danced for joy. The swans fluttered around her and hovered low so that she could throw the shirts over. This throwing the shirts over a swan, it's fun to say, but I feel like it'd be a really clumsy thing, because
Well, yeah. I mean,
they don't have arms, like it would have to just.
Telling
do
you.
that again. What
That
was
Hanes shit is stretchy though.
Like that.
The visual for our listeners. The swans put their wings up and shimmies it.
Yeah, and it comes down, got the little collar.
Yeah, I think it. In my mind, it's like a heavy shawl because it has to.
Oh,
It has to. She has to throw it, and it has to have the weight
kind
to
of, yeah.
land on a
I
swan.
get that. Yeah.
6 of them at the same time. Ready? Go!
She has to. She's been practicing like horseshoes her whole life in order to.
Yeah.
6 at a time.
Whoosh and.
This is where I prayed for an alternative ending because I just wanted them to like fly away with the shirts.
Oh,
And
wow.
nothing happened.
Wow.
Here are the shirts, sis.
The swans fluttered around her and hovered low so that she could throw the shirts over them. When they had touched them, the swan skins fell off, and her brothers stood before her living, well and beautiful. Only the youngest had a swan's wing instead of his left arm. But you know what?
Shoddy seamstress.
I just couldn't get the last
Of
sleeve.
course, it was the baby. Of course, it was the youngest one.
I
And
had
she was about to be burned at the stake. So
but I couldn't get the last sleeve done.
They embraced and kissed each other, and the queen went to the king, who was standing by in great astonishment. Well, yeah, I think so. Because that would be quite the scene. Queen went to the king, who was standing by in great astonishment, and began to speak to him, saying, "Dearest husband, now I can speak and tell you openly that I am innocent and have been falsely accused." She told him of the old woman's deceit and how she had taken the 3 children away and hidden them. Then they were fetched, the great joy of the king, and the wicked mother came to no good end. That's
she
over.
got burned.
Spin-off. That's a spin-off called No Good End.
And then they lived happily ever after.
Uh-huh.
End of story. We ran out of words. Must end now.
Yes. But the king and queen, with their 6 brothers, lived many years in peace and happiness. Bye.
What about her kids?
Them.
They were
Fuck them babies.
Did.
That's what she said. She got her shirts done. She has 6 kids now.
Dang.
No 6 brothers.
Well,
Brothers
do you
in.
think they stayed their young age, or do you think they aged 6 years?
No,
Because I
no.
thought in my head she aged 6 years and now had 6 kids to take care of.
Oh.
So, see, mine is
Damn.
the king and queen with their 6 brothers lived many years in happiness and peace, and then they got the 3 kids back. So now
Oh, they got the 3 kids back?
this is what happened.
Yes.
I
This is
smoked
what
way
happened
too much
in like
weed.
in a day. She went from being the mute, like dirt sewing seamstress at the stake,
Getting
children,
burned.
to missing children, to being a household of 6 brothers, her, their 3 kids, king, queen. So they just went to like a full house, 11, like 11 people in a house. Now she can talk and laugh.
But
Oh,
instead,
divorce is about to
she's
happen.
going to be doing a lot of cooking.
And her brothers are there now. Hey, oh my gosh, I know I've never said anything to you as my husband. Maybe we should start by the fact that I had swan brothers.
I feel like this whole fairy tale is really about people just having to accept whatever it is that they are handed.
Yeah.
Everybody
that's
just
why-
has to accept their current circumstances and make the best of it.
Left arm.
Yeah, you're fucked, but that's the way the cookie crumbles.
I mean, that's what fairy tales are, right? They're a nice way to tell a story. Like if you look at, I mean, there's truth in fairy tales, but you have to look at the culture where the fairy tale came from to like find the truth. And so, you know, if you think about like arranged marriages, wouldn't you want fairy tales where the woman marries a beast and all of a sudden he turns into a prince at the end? Like it's just kind of like a training
Yeah.
of us with these like stories.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Be true to your brothers. That relationship will last a lifetime. Really good at weaving.
Don't get lost in the woods.
There you go.
This
Lesson.
is where this all actually, you know what it is? Ultimate lesson. Don't fucking show off in front of your friends.
Don't.
Like you left, you wanted to be the king and ride around in front of everybody and you lost your buddies.
Mhm.
And then, I mean, who knows what the fuck happened to the king? We don't even have a summary on the dad.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of unanswered questions.
It was
Tons.
The women had all the knowledge. Like every single woman was the keeper of the knowledge and how things were working, or you know, doing the acts. The guys were all like they're all dupes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, not didn't mean to be a male bashing episode, but
They're reactionary. Like,
They're reactionary. They're just pawns. They're just pawns in the story.
yeah.
Although I would say that, like, the patriarchy is in full swing because it's all about them getting married and getting rescued and all that shit and having sex, of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
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 Oh my gosh.
But the chicks all make the shit happen. They're the ones with all the power.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
if this were a reality TV show, like, this woman's just been like, the mom is going like, my son, she's on Dr. Phil. She's going, the naked woman that he found in the tree, and she's been sewing shirts for 6 years.
God,
and
that is patience.
He's fine with it. He has no questions.
I think the theme song to
Dr. Phil would want to know what the payoff is. He'd be like, what's his payoff?
you can totally hear Beyonce singing, "Who runs the world?
Yeah.
Who rules the world?"
Witches.
She's sewing.
Patience.
Anything, honey? She's just sewing.
Silently.
I don't think she was doing this.
No, I don't think there was a sewing machine.
I wasn't sewing, I was dancing.
Is that what that is?
Again, for our
listeners, Shelly acted like the 1812 swan search showing queen
singer
was
sewing machine.
using a singer sewing machine. But
To
obviously,
sew Six Swans.
No, we're gonna stop this.
Wow.
No more S's.
I think I did kind of come up with a pitch though. You could combine like road rules with the Six Swans story and have a reality show where she's like living in the van, not in a tree, and having to go do all the little tests to try to get her brothers.
Sure.
Something. I see a show in there.
Do you think this is to teach girls what their place is? They do everything to help boys get there. That popped in my head, right?
To make them real boys.
Yeah, to make them like, you as a sister, you're going to give up, almost die because your brothers are some dumbass swans. Like, they're fine. They're living their life. But you have to do all of this. There seems to be like a lot of these, like,
this is your place.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're going to be married. You're going to sew shit. Your kids are going to be taken away from you. You have no voice.
You have no voice, literally. You can't
No
let
voice.
speak.
Yeah. And you're cool with it. You're just doing your duty.
Doing your duty. But also, Kris,
which is to save the boys.
you know the improv game where it's called Story. Like, you basically, like, I point to you and you go, once upon a time there was a queen.
Yeah.
And then you go back and forth, and the group has
Yeah.
to pick up the story and keep it tight. So that's what this sounds like.
Oh, totally.
That's what this sounds like. Like, somebody's like, and then she had to sew things.
And she's up in a tree and she throws off all her clothes
And
to
she's
try
in
and
a
get them to
tree,
go away.
and-
Brutal.
Actually,
But
that
they
would be a
don't.
great skit because I bet that's very close to how this was made.
I think that would be a great skit.
That was just drunk people trying to make up a story, and one of them's like, but then they turned into birds. Somebody's like, really? That's the choice we're making? We're going to have to follow this bird thing now? We're going to have to yes and this bird theme?
Yes, and
We're going to have to yes. And she kept sewing and not talking for 6 years.
Cheers.
That's how I think it came to be. It's just,
you're correct.
They just wanted a year each to be a swan.
that's right.
And they didn't come out and just tell her, like, we want to hang with the swan thing for a little while.
I'm going to break it to you, sis, but
They were willing to martyr her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boys, if you're listening to this,
Back off.
you need my permission to be a swan.
If you're a swan, be a swan. Again, accept your nature.
Be a big, beautiful swan. Put that Hanes t-shirt on as tight as, let those feathers stick out,
Ruffle underneath.
ruffle underneath, let them out, take it off. Be a big swan.
Yeah. Big swan. Big.
You said that very seductively. Take it off, be a big
Be
swan.
a big
Be a
swan.
great swan for me. Big swan.
Yikes.
Big Swan is my rap name. Big Swan. Big Shelly Swan. Okay. I think I don't know if I can say anything else about Six Swans. She also sent me Little Orphan.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
was completely different than Little Orphan Annie.
Yeah. And I
It's
love
supposed to be Little Orphan Alley.
My mom had that whole poem memorized. And so she would tell it with like a twist on field trips. Like we'd be on a field trip and my mom would tell these stories. And my mom made Little Orphan Annie very scary in the way that she said it. And so, I mean, I just always had remembered that. And it was funny because most field trips, we would get a call. You can't tell stories like that. Like stop telling stories to the kids because they all come home like scared because she was just a really great, that's where I got my love of storytelling was from her. She's just a really great storyteller.
So the kids didn't come home talking about what the field trip was about.
No, Miss Angie told us that if we don't pray and we don't pick up our clothes, this little orphan comes down a chimney and sucks the life out of you. Like basically it was third grade. I mean,
Yowza.
Yeah, I have very specific stories. Every grade, every field trip.
Oh my God.
Like from my mom telling stories, or even my dad got in on it. So
you know what it is? I think as a child, what the love of fairy tales was for me was just the idea of like interacting with animals in a fantastical land. Like there's a family of animals living under a mushroom and they can talk. Like it was just like, I don't care what their life is like. I just want to be in that forest, you know. I just want to like, if I could talk to sure. And then he got on his magic horse. I'm like, great. You had me in that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure we all wish there was a little glitter.
Sure.
Maybe especially right now, little castles and enchanted forests that we could get lost in.
We all need it. We all need it. So let's take some time for the weeds portion of Reads and Weeds. Persian. We've read. Jeff is prepping the boat.
Yes, it's time to end the podcast.
If you guys thought 2 straight days of sitting on the boat, smoking weed and floating around was enough, you are mistaken.
Oh, I want it.
No, that could be every day.
Yes.
Fuck. Yeah.
I need that.
Kristen's gonna do some work here in a minute. Gotta go. So yeah. But no, what I love about storytelling, you know, the reason why I wanted to have Jilleien on so bad was that so very succinctly you said we believe in the power of storytelling to change the stigma of medical cannabis. I believe exactly the same thing, but in a roundabout way, and I'm sure we come from this same background of, I grew up with this is your brain on
weed.
Drugs, egg in a frying pan, and just you know, and just so much information, like people who smoke weed are lazy, and I'm like, really? Because they're also the smartest people in this class that I'm in, and running their own company, and crushing it on the ultimate frisbee team. Like they're not lazy.
President of the United States, not currently.
Right. So that, like, I didn't grow up with any messaging that was like, here's your super proactive stoners. But it was my lived reality. My lived reality was these are the people who were like creating things, making music, running a company, doing yoga, you know what I mean? Learning how to grow everything. And why was I taught so differently? So, you know, my urge was to tell stories and read stories and learn with other people who, you know, love cannabis.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things. But what Jilleien does is have people on to talk about oftentimes stories of healing. And can you share just a couple of your favorites with us?
Yeah. I mean, you sum it up perfectly. So in my life, I have learned I'm okay as a person because I've heard other people's stories. And so we are often in our lives shamed for the things that we go through that are often very heroic. and we have trouble saying that. And so what I've realized is people tell their story, something changes. And if you put them on a podcast and it has like a beautiful music and it's done well, along the lines, they step into a lot of power. And that in and of itself is like healing. But some of my like favorite stories that I've had is, I mean, it's really hard to pick all of them. I think Elliot was a great one. Anytime addiction is mentioned and we talk about that and overcoming what it takes to come from an opioid addiction to now be on the other side of it and such an advocate for cannabis and having used it. I had a gentleman, Larry, who was in the North Tower on 9/11 and basically through PTSD kind of lost everything. And then as he found cannabis and the work. So that's what I always want to show on the podcast. It's not just like, oh, you smoke some weed and all of a sudden you're okay. There's meditation, there's journaling, there's talking to counselors, there's complete nutrition switches, there's exercises that all of these stories all have part of it. And so how he was able to start to get his life back and lose weight and have a job again and create relationships again. Anybody who from our veterans who are using it to help with sleep so that they can not feel the way that they do or pain. And then from our cannabis nurses, like I love to hear their stories of how they got into cannabis nursing, but then also the things that people are doing. I think that's what's so cool about medical cannabis now is obviously it's still a Schedule I drug. Dr. Sue Sisley can do studies on it for veterans. Yeah. So she can do that. She has a license for that study. But everything else we know about cannabis is through cannabis culture and through storytelling. And so I like to share my story because then I get people like, well, how to use cannabis to help with depression and anxiety. And then I can tell them, and then it's a starting point because if you use cannabis, it's highly personal. And what works for me and makes me feel one way is not even the same way it does for my wife. Yeah. And so you need a starting point and someone who can kind of like guide you to be like, no, it's okay. Like, yeah, you felt some anxiety about that. That's okay. Let's go this way a little bit. And that's how I think we'll start to learn these until studies start to come along. And then when you put cannabis in a professional setting, where you have lighting and cameras and non-drippy fonts, and this was my belief with the magazine, you do something to end the stigma. Mm-hmm. When I'm able to have people who you would never admit to using cannabis, when they tell someone they use cannabis, it makes it okay. Oh, well, cannabis can't be too bad. Like Jill uses it. My dad's known for a long time that my brother used cannabis, but it really wasn't until we showed him how we use it medically that his mind changed. Mm-hmm. And it took a long time for him, and we were very open about it for a few years. And so the stories of how it helped and my dad seeing me lose weight and get better, that's what changed his mind. And seeing someone else to use it for burns and them sharing their story with him. So until that happens, I think that's how you end prohibition is for especially a few things. Number one, and I'm going to stand on a soapbox for a second because I like to talk about this when I can. So there are white men who are making millions of dollars off of something that Black men are still in jail for. And so we have to, and the reason why is, we all know why those things. So everybody who uses cannabis needs to understand that and needs to fight to change that because it's just not fucking fair. Shouldn't be able to go get it the way that I do if you're still in a non-violent cannabis charge. And then everybody who uses it just needs to admit it. I know you do. Everybody does. Maybe 10 people don't. And you just need to be okay with it. Like when all my family members don't want other family members to know that they do it, but everybody knows I do it. Like obviously, there's still a lot of like mental stigma. So we just got to keep telling our stories and show people that I can smoke a blunt and have, maybe sometimes that conversation got a little crazy, but you can still do the things when you medicate correctly, when you're using it as a medicine. And then when you have fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because two things this reminded me of, and then I'm realizing we should wrap up. But it's highly personal, and you need someone to guide you. That's another one of my jobs in this household.
Yeah.
Well, when my sister died of ovarian cancer, and she used it for healing and for
Yeah.
pain relief.
But you needed someone to like show you that. Like it's so overwhelming when you're sick.
Yeah.
And then it's not like traditional medicine where a doctor says take one pill every 6 hours. That's not how this works. Everything, your environment, the way you digest, all plays a part in it. And so you need someone to help you understand that so you don't get frustrated and you quit.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to think that weed was weed, and just having her through all of her work just to say, no, this one is going to have less anxiety, this one is actually going to give you energy. It's like, I did not know that.
Well, and helping people to see, like, just like any substance, like I can have this much coffee, but I can't have this much sugar. Some people can't have cheese, some people and it's like, understanding like this isn't just a thing, it's a thing. Or you need a notebook, you need to understand timing, you need to understand like what you're trying to do, what you're trying to do. And
you have to pay attention to your body and its reactions, and that's something we don't do much because we're not taught that. To sit there and be still and be like, because a lot of times how I think cannabis helps, it's not an overwhelming effect like a pain pill or when you take a Xanax or when, any of those things. It's kind of what you don't feel anymore. The heaviness is gone. The worry's kind of gone. Yeah, I still have pain, but I process it a little bit differently and it just doesn't hurt as bad. It's when you go into it with the wrong assumptions and expectations is when I think you start to like really mess up your journey in cannabis.
Exactly.
Well, I appreciate what you are all doing for education. I just think that education is what lifts that stigma for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it was fun.
I don't know if you know the name Amy Carter, Jilleien, but I was telling Kris, so Amy Carter, it was the parent petitioner who got autism put on Michigan. What do you call it?
The conditions or illnesses, for a card.
From age 9, she's been treating her son from age 9 to 13. And she is going to come on, reads in me, and she wants to read the journals from before she was treating her son.
Wow.
Because it was, because that's her story. Her story is she wants to read her journals from before she treated him and then after. Because her story is she was kind of like I have a friend, Ida, who did the same thing with her daughter, Bella. Like the parents that are willing to stand on the Capitol steps and like say, I'm going to treat my child or you're going to arrest me, whatever. Like, but this is helping my child either not have seizures or not beat up our family or be comfortable in their own skin, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to help my child. Right?
Yeah.
You need to legalize this or put me in jail. Like, we need to work this out. And that are willing to stand up and tell that story, they help free other parents.
Correct.
For years have been picking up and moving somewhere where they can just treat their child.
Yeah.
So I've met her a couple times in the past, and she's going to come on in the next week and a half or so.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So, well, this was fun.
Yes.
This was awesome.
Oh my gosh, so fun. She should probably do your show too. Do you just stick your show to Maryland?
So the first season we did, but probably not. No, I think it's, there's a lot of cool things happening everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. You can see.
Yeah, send me an introduction for sure.
I will.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks y'all so much.
Good seeing you guys. Have a great day.
Have a
Enjoy
good
the
one.
boat.
I'm going to go out with creepy music again.
Oh.
Here we go. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.